Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. Thank you for joining the evaluation workshop by Toastmaster Marama Carmichael Kishimoto, District 76 International Speech Contest Champion. And Toastmaster Marama, thank you very much for accepting our request. We are looking forward to your workshop. Before we begin, let me introduce today's program. Program Quality Committee will conduct the evaluation festival from 10th November through 20th December. And today's workshop is one of the kickoff events. Any member can participate in the event by submitting a written evaluation to the test speaker videos on the website. And it's a great opportunity to learn different perspectives of Toastmasters all over District 76 because submitted evaluations will be uploaded on the website. And selection committee members will give some feedback and pick up some of them. The Evaluation Festival Committee, the chair is Toastmaster Kazuyuki Hosaka for Japanese evaluations, and Toastmaster Emi Maruyama for English evaluations. And we have committee members, Toastmaster Ishizuka, Toastmaster Uehira, and Toastmaster Otsuka. The website will be created soon, and you will know more about it. Then, let's move on to the program. At first, Toastmaster Marama Carmichael Kishimoto will deliver the presentation about the effective evaluation. And then we will move on to the prepared speech session. Toastmaster Akiko Takamura will deliver her speech based on the Pathways Presentation Mastery Level 3, Inspire Your Audience. The title is The Best Friend. And then Toastmaster Marama will add some comments about the effective usage of language. And next, we will have the evaluation sessions. We have two evaluators today, Toastmaster Emiko Morikawa and Toastmaster Miuri Fukuhara. I'm looking forward to Toastmaster Marama's workshop, Toastmaster Takamura's prepared speech, and Toastmaster Morikawa and Toastmaster Fukuhara's evaluations. And lastly, we will have the group discussion about the evaluations. In a breakout room, you can discuss what was good or what can be added in the evaluations. And Toastmaster Marama will give some feedback to the evaluators, and we will have Q&A session if time allows. I hope you will enjoy today's workshop and evaluation festival. And then let me introduce today's presenter, Toastmaster Marama Carmichael Kishimoto. Toastmaster Marama belongs to Tokushima Toastmasters Club. Originally, she was shy of speaking in public and hated public speaking. But through Toastmasters experiences, she overcame her shyness and fear, and now she loves competing in contests. As you know, she has won the district contest 3 times in 2018, 19, and 20. Today, we will learn the effective evaluation from her. Please join me in
Good morning, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Now today we're going to be talking about evaluations and how to make an effective evaluation speech. But who likes making evaluation speeches? Yeah, some hands are raised. Who is scared of making evaluation speeches? Who knows that they're very important, but is still quite nervous about making them? Okay, so today, let's start off. I'm just going to share my screen. Here we go. Okay, so today we're going to start off talking about why. Why do we make evaluation speeches? Okay, in Toastmasters, we know we have to make them. We often get asked to be an evaluator. But why do we make them? Well, there are several reasons. First of all, we can help club members improve their public speaking skills. Now, that isn't only the person that you are evaluating. So we're not only helping the one person who is making their speech improve their skills, but we're helping the whole club improve their public speaking skills. So by making a very effective evaluation, you can actually help everybody in your club improve their skills, which can raise the level of your club's speakers and speeches. And on top of that, one thing that I think is really, really important is we can raise confidence. Now that can be raise the confidence of the speaker that you're giving evaluation to. But to be honest, it's also raising your own confidence. By standing up and making an effective evaluation, you can raise your own confidence. So next time when you're asked, well, last time I did a good job, so I'll do it again. So you can feel confidence in your own ability. Now, a very important skill for evaluation is we can improve our own skill. And this is our own skill as a listener, our own skill as an evaluator, and our own skill as an impromptu speaker. Because while you may have 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes to prepare, you can't memorize a whole 3-minute speech to give about somebody else's. So it is effectively an impromptu speech. So we're raising our skills as evaluators and impromptu speakers. And the last one is a little bit tricky, but we learn to apply critical thinking skills. So you have to think critically about somebody else's speech instead of just saying, oh, wow, that's a fantastic job, you were great. We have to start looking at what they're doing well, what maybe isn't so effective, and we have to learn how to tactfully constructive criticism. Use tactful constructive criticism. Tactful means instead of being very blunt and saying, oh, you did this terribly, it was awful, instead learn how to actually say something so that they don't feel offended and stop speaking and lose all their confidence in public speaking. So this is why we have to learn how to be tactful and give constructive criticism tactfully. So this is why I think we need to do evaluation speeches, why the reason why we do them. But then it comes to how. How do we evaluate people? So very simply, I'm going back to actually what do we have to do? Well, before you start, before the speaker comes and before you go to the meeting, whether it's online or in person, prepare. So prepare by getting the evaluation forms for the speaker and looking over them. So it's very, very key to know what the speaker should be being evaluated on. If the evaluation form says that they need to do research and development and they give a fantastic speech, but they don't seem to research or develop anything, you need to know that that's what they're aiming to do. So before the speech, you need to find or be given by the speaker, the correct evaluation form. And in fact, the evaluation form will really, really help you make an effective evaluation. Without this, it's very hard to give an effective evaluation. But this actually has all the keys to giving a good evaluation. So before the speech, prepare by reading over the forms. Then, during the speech, listen carefully. Okay? It's very, very key to listen to what the speaker is saying and watch how they are saying it. Take notes, lots of notes. just little marked little notes that say what they did effectively, what they didn't do effectively, what you thought they could do better, and use the evaluation form. So look at the evaluation form, refer to it. You don't have to fill it out during the speech. You can actually take notes and come back and fill that out afterwards when you have a little bit more time. Instead, jot down and listen properly, because if you're trying to fill in all the boxes, you might not actually be listening to what the speaker is saying or watching how they're saying it. And then it comes to after the speech. So using your notes and the evaluation form, decide which points you want to talk about. So often there is so much that we could talk about, but we only have 3 minutes. So you have to decide which is the most rewarding for the speaker and which is the most rewarding for the audience. So your evaluation speech is not just for the speaker. Your evaluation speech is for the whole of the audience. And then it comes time to give your evaluation speech. And you might feel a little bit nervous, a little bit sweaty like this guy. And one of the main techniques for giving an evaluation speech is this sandwich technique. Now, I know many people will have heard of the sandwich technique, where you give a positive point. You talk about things that they could improve on. And then you end on a different and an encouraging point. One of the key things to giving an effective evaluation speech is not discouraging the speaker. So you want to leave them feeling like, well, I could do this to improve, but I still did a good speech. You don't want to leave them feeling like, oh, I failed. I can't do public speaking. I'm terrible. I hate it. I'm not doing it anymore. I quit. I'm done. I'm leaving Toastmasters. And with an evaluation, you have the power to put somebody off public speaking for life, or you have the power to encourage them. So it's up to you to raise their confidence, but give them suggestions for improvement. And that is the key to giving a good evaluation. Now, I'm going to talk about a couple of tips, a little bit of advice when it comes to giving an evaluation. Now, the first point is many evaluators come up to the podium, or these days it's quite often online, and they will say, for example, today's speaker is Akiko, so I will use her name, but they will say, Akiko, you did a fantastic speech today. I really enjoyed it. Congratulations, you were wonderful. I think you could do this, 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 this. Next time, you should do this. But the problem is, you are only talking to Akiko. You're not talking to the other 20 people in the room. So my first bit of advice is don't focus only on the speaker. Talk to everyone in the room. Because if you are talking only to Akiko, you have 25 people who will stop listening to what you're saying. They'll think, oh, she's not talking to me. And they'll take out their phone. They'll start looking at their phone. They'll start doodling. They'll start daydreaming. They might even drop off. So try to make your speech not only to the speaker, but talk to everyone in the room. Instead of saying, Akiko, you should do this, you did that. Say, today, Akiko made a fantastic speech about, in ways that Akiko could improve would be, so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. We'll talk a little bit more about this later, but make your evaluation for everyone, not only for the speaker. Because that way you can guide a whole room to improve instead of just one person. My next tip is give examples, an example of what they did well, an example of how to improve. And I don't mean you just have to say, for example, you could do this. You can actually demonstrate some examples with your body, with your voice. For instance, if somebody makes a speech where they don't use much vocal variety, but their speech is about having an angry conversation with their mother, you can give in your evaluation, I believe that if you had used more vocal variety, you would have raised the interest of the audience. For example, in the beginning, when you had the argument with your mother and you were very angry, you could have raised your voice like this to show your anger. If you're talking about body language, you were very still when you were giving your presentation. If you tried moving a little bit when you were having your conversation, turning your head, so you can give examples so that the audience really understands what you're trying to say. And also, it will actually raise the interest of your evaluation speech. So if you can use your own examples and your own body and your own voice, you can raise the interest so that the audience is really listening to what you're saying. You're giving your own little 3-minute speech. So try that. Another one is, for many people, this will be very obvious, but refer to the evaluation manual objectives. Make sure you come back to these. Don't just ignore them, okay? They're very important, and they give the evaluator little notes. They'll actually say what the speaker should be focused on. Make sure you come back to those, and you can actually comment on them and say, well, you did this very well, but actually it seemed that you were missing this part of it, and maybe that's one way you could improve. And lastly, use your time carefully. Don't spend 3 minutes summarizing their speech. The audience has just listened to their speech. They don't need a summary of the speech. And don't spend 3 minutes flattering the speaker. Wow, you were fantastic. It was so wonderful. You did such a great job of this. Oh, I love the way you did this. And you're amazing. You're such an amazing speaker. It's not useful just to flatter someone. So we want to encourage them, but we don't want to just spend 3 minutes giving them flattering comments. We need to have a little bit of both. But for me, above all, we want to encourage the speaker to continue making speeches. Putting people off public speaking is not something we ever want to do. So above all, we want to encourage the speaker to continue. And this, especially if somebody is at the beginning of their Toastmaster journey, it's particularly important for somebody doing an icebreaker, their first or second speech. If they get a very, very harsh evaluation, they might not make another speech. So be very careful with that. And then, of course, after your evaluation speech, return the evaluation form to the speaker. Then make a comment and ask them if they have any questions, because they might have listened to your evaluation and thought, oh, why did she think that? Or why did she say that? Or I don't really understand. So you can ask them, maybe they have questions and they want to ask you about your evaluation. So we know most of this about evaluation speeches. We know that we should use the evaluation form. We know that we should check the manual, but we still feel nervous when it comes to evaluation speeches. Maybe not everybody, but a lot of people still feel nervous. There was Mark Twain who said, there are two types of speakers, those that are nervous and those that are liars. So it's okay, everybody feels nervous. But when it comes to evaluation speeches, what are we actually afraid of? So I did a little bit of research to find out what people are afraid of with evaluation speeches. And this won't be everything. There will be other things that you are afraid of, but these are what actually came up. The first one that somebody told me they were afraid of, they said, what if we don't understand what the speaker is talking about? How can we write an evaluation if we sit there and we think, I have no idea what this speech is about? Okay, my advice for this is work out why you don't understand it. What is it you don't understand? Is it the topic? Is it the meaning? Is it the language they're using? Are they using very sophisticated, very long words, very difficult English or very difficult Japanese? And you don't understand it? Is it the speech speed? Are they speaking so quickly you can't pick up what they're talking about? So whatever it is that you don't understand about it, use that as your improvement point. Find something else that they did well. Maybe they had good vocal variety. Use that as your good point. For your improvement point, say, well, I didn't quite understand everything that you said. I think it was because you were speaking too fast. in order to improve your speech, I would actually slow down so that everybody in the room can understand you. If you did this, then more people would understand, and it would be easier for the audience to listen to you. However, in my opinion, I think you had a fantastic use of body language, and so you're giving them really important ways to improve. Because a lot of people do try to use things like sophisticated language in their speech, but speeches should really be written so that the audience can understand, no matter who the audience is. So it's very important that we tell them that, but we don't spend 3 minutes telling them, I didn't understand, it was terrible. So you really need to pad that in your sandwich, but work out why you didn't understand it. Another thing that we're actually afraid of is 3 minutes is too long. I don't have enough to say. How can I talk for 3 minutes? I don't have this problem. I have the opposite problem, actually. In this case, point out one strong point, one improvement point, perhaps another 1 or 2 strong points, and the time will pass quickly. You'll find that 3 minutes is actually quite fast. Which brings us to the other problem, which is 3 minutes is too short. Many people will find this, they'll have notes and notes and notes and notes, but they only have 3 minutes to talk about them. So in this case, don't try to say everything. You're never going to be able to say all the points you've written down. So point out instead only 1 or 2 of the good things and only 1 or 2 of the improvement points. Decide which is the most valuable to the speaker and the most valuable to the audience, and pick those. You don't need to say everything. You can actually write a lot more on the evaluation, and you can give that to the speaker and they will still get those points. So don't try and say everything. You'll never be able to say it all in 3 minutes. So instead, find 1 or 2 things to focus on. And then there is the last problem, which I put, oh no, I haven't, I've got 2 more problems, sorry. This one is the speaker is too good. You can't find anything to improve on. The speaker is fantastic. It's Pascal Hauser. There's nothing good else that you can say, nothing he could improve on. In this case, there is one thing you can do. First of all, try and see if there is a little habit that they do. Sometimes even very good speakers will actually do strange things with their hands. You might find they keep doing this, or they put their hands behind their back, or they do a little strange movement with their heads, or they don't make enough eye contact. If you can point out one little habit that they do as their improvement, then that's great. But if you can't find anything, don't stress about it, okay? You don't have to find something wrong. If there is nothing, if you believe there is nothing wrong, don't make anything up. Don't say, well, I think you should do this just because you think you need to put it in. Instead, what you can actually do is focus on all the things that they did well and point them out so that the people in the audience would be able to use them. So relate them to other people in the audience so that they can then take them into their speeches. So you can say, for example, Pascal Hauser did a fantastic speech. The way he stood very confidently with his shoulders back shows how confident he is in front of an audience. This is something that you could all use. You could actually all stand there with your shoulders back and show that you're confident speakers. The range of vocal variety was that. So you point out the good points and then try to relate them to the audience so the audience can pick up. And then there's one that's related to this, one other thing we're afraid of, that the speaker's too bad. You can't find anything good to say about it. In which case, find one little good thing. There must be something. It might be the way that they said something. It might be the one line that they said. It might be one paragraph. Do not talk about everything you think that they did wrong. This will not help them at all. Instead, find something good, focus on that, mention 1 or 2 of the things you think they could improve on, and then leave them on an encouraging note. So do not mention all the things you think they did wrong. Now, those are the things that I found that we're actually afraid of. Now, today we have a volunteer speaker who's coming to make a speech for us today. Thank you very much, Akiko, for your bravery. But just before we ask her to do her speech, I'd just like to talk about her, the manual for Akiko. So today, she is doing this one. I think you've all been sent it, so I won't read it all out, but notes for the evaluators. So just when you're listening, these are some things to think about. The member needs to present a speech that inspires the audience. The speech content should be engaging and the speaker entertaining or moving. The speaker should be aware of audience response and adapt the speech as needed. If the member appears to be talking at the audience instead of interacting with them, he or she is not fulfilling the goal of the speech. Now, this is a little bit harder because of online. I think particularly things to do with audience response and interacting with the audience becomes much harder when we talk about an online environment, because it really is watching somebody instead of being amongst them. So we do have to remember things like that for an online environment. But this is her evaluation form, which I know you've all got. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing and we're going to ask Akiko to come and make her speech. So I'll just introduce Akiko to us. So Toastmaster Akiko Tamura belongs to two clubs, Fukuoka Toastmasters Club and Oita Toastmasters Club. She's a current BPM of Fukuoka Toastmasters Club and a mentor of Kyushu University Toastmasters Club. She's a very reliable person and so she has contributed brilliantly to these clubs. In her spare time, she enjoys reading, singing, and dancing. You can see her gentle personality from her speech. Please enjoy her speech today. And her speech title is The Best Friend. So The Best Friend, Toastmaster Akiko Takamura. Toastmaster Akiko Takamura, The Best Friend.
When I was in elementary school, my friend Ami said out of the blue, "Akiko-chan, you are my best friend." Second to Sa-chan, "Sa-chan is my best friend." What? Why am I the second best? Ami explained to me that Sa-chan lived in a neighborhood, so she has certain advantage in her friend list. My fellow Toastmasters and most welcome guests, what does a best friend mean to you? Is that someone who is always there to support you? Or is that someone who brightens up your day when you are feeling down? To me, my best friend must be someone like Mayuka, my friend from university. We hang out almost every day together, but we never got bored of each other. Mayuka once told me, "Akiko, when I get married, I want you to make a speech at my wedding as my best friend." Mayuka, if I were to choose a maid of honor for my wedding, it would be you. I remember I said this to Mayuka without knowing that the wedding wouldn't happen in the next 2 decades. After the graduation, Mayuka and I couldn't get to see each other often due to work. One day, I paid Mayuka a short visit on my way to my hometown. When I entered her room, I smelled the incense, and I sensed that someone in her family had died. It was her brother. He died in a car accident. Mayuka said sadly, "He appeared in my dream yesterday, saying that he forgot something. After packing everything, he left, nodding in his satisfaction. It was as if saying that he's okay now, so I should move on. But I really don't know how. I was speechless. I didn't know whether I should encourage her or burst out into tears on her behalf. I couldn't do anything except sit next to her, feeling so powerless. My life got hectic after that, and I couldn't get another opportunity to visit her. Several years later, I received a wedding invitation from Mayuka. And at the wedding, somebody else made a speech as her best friend. No wonder I couldn't do anything for her when she was in need. And I wondered what I could do for her as her best friend. After the wedding, I felt like as if I was disqualified from being anyone's best friend. However, that was not the case. Rei, a Chinese girl who I met at an event, introduced me to her friends, saying, "Akiko-chan, it's Nanai are so close. She's my best friend." Wait, is that too soon to call me your best friend? We just met. However, as I got to know Rei more and more, I realized that Rei really thinks that I am her best friend. She always cared about me. She was always there to help me. And I realized that Rei was already my best friend for me too. I met Mayuka again at another friend's wedding. In the middle of the party, she suddenly sat next to me. "I really wanted you to make a speech at my wedding." It was my boss who insisted on doing that. "By the way, when can I be your maid of honor?" Do I have to wait another decade? And we had a good laugh together, just like the old days. What does a best friend mean to you? Is that someone who lives close to you? Or is that someone who went to the same school with? To me, my friend is someone who I want to spend more time with, someone who I want to support when they are in need. In this sense, I'm very lucky. I have a lot of friends around me. So, whether you like it or not, I will never hesitate when I say, "You are my best friends."
Thank you very much, Akiko. What a fantastic speech. Now, in order to give our evaluators a couple of minutes for themselves to prepare, I'm going to talk for a couple of minutes and then we will call our first evaluator. So if you just wait a few minutes, our first evaluator will be Emiko, but if you just wait about 5 minutes, Emiko, okay? So, okay. So what I'd like to talk about a little bit before we ask our evaluator to come in is some language to use when we talk about evaluations. So when we come to evaluations, there is certain language that we might want to avoid using. And the first one here is, I've written you, well, too much you. Akiko, you did a fantastic job. Akiko, you maybe could have done this better. Akiko, you should have done this. Akiko, I believe that this was, okay, too much you, as I was mentioning before, makes the audience feel that you're not talking to them as well, that you're only talking to one person. So instead, try to avoid the use of the word you. Perhaps using it in one or two statements might be okay, but otherwise try to avoid it. The second one that I've put to avoid is we, as in we, the audience, because you're not speaking for the audience, you're speaking for yourself. You can't give the audience's opinion because their opinion might be very different to your own. So instead, you can't come up and say, well, you can't come up, but it's better not to come up and say, we didn't understand you. We thought you should have done this. We thought you could have done that better. You're not speaking for the audience, you're speaking for yourself. So try to avoid you phrases, try to avoid we phrases. And the third one is try to avoid phrases with a negative feeling. You didn't, you shouldn't have, Aki shouldn't have, she failed to, he did, he was terrible at this, I didn't like the way he did. Because the feeling of the person listening to this drops. Your heart drops when somebody says, you didn't do this, you shouldn't have done that, you failed to. Oh gosh, they're like daggers to the heart of a speaker. So try to avoid phrases with a negative feeling. And instead, these are some useful language for evaluations. I think that, I suggest that in order to improve, you could do. I believe, or not you could, in order to improve, I suggest that in order to improve, Akiko could try this. I believe that Akiko had used a very, I won't take bits from the evaluator, but Akiko used her space very well, and she had a very good use of space. So things like, I understand. I noticed that when you were speaking, you were making, no, sorry, I've moved back into you as well, because I'm actually looking at your face on the screen. But I noticed that Akiko used her eye contact very well. I liked the way that she moved on the stage. I liked the way that she used her voice, or in my opinion. So try to use phrases with an encouraging feeling to them. I think Sarah used the space very well. I particularly liked Ken's use of body language. Tom excelled at vocal variety. The feeling that you get from hearing these phrases is much more positive than the didn't and shouldn't and failed. Instead, the person feels much more encouraged and much more like they can do it. And again, coming back to what I was talking about before, give examples. So if you say, I think Sarah used the space very well, for example, in the beginning of the speech, when she sat down and she stood up, when she moved from here to here. So you're giving actual examples of how she used the space well. Don't just say that she did it, say how she did it. I'll show how she did it. I particularly liked Ken's use of vocal variety. For example, in the middle of his speech, when he got angry, he had a very deep, angry voice. And later, when he was talking quietly to his son, he used a very soft voice. And these are ways to suggest improvement. So this is what I was talking about with the tactful constructive criticism, which is very hard for many people to give tactful constructive criticism. But some ways to do this are things like, I suggest that. I suggest that next time Sarah works on adding more body language to her speech. One improvement that Sarah could make would be to add more vocal variety to her speech. I've used the name Sarah here. But one way Sarah could challenge herself in her next speech would be to use more gestures within the speech. For example, at the beginning, Sarah could. So these are ways to add those suggestions without saying you didn't do this, you failed to do that, you shouldn't have done this. Okay, So those are my suggestions for now. And what we will do now is we're going to ask our very kind volunteers who have volunteered to give evaluations today to give their evaluations. And after that, what we'll do is we'll go into the breakout room, and please, in the breakout room, discuss the evaluations using tactful, constructive criticism. What do you think they can add, or what do you think they can take away? What sort of language is useful to use? What do you think they missed? That type of thing. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing, and I am going to ask our first evaluator today. So our first evaluator is Toastmaster Emiko Morikawa. And Toastmaster Morikawa is a member of Hiroshima Toastmasters Club and Hiroshima Phoenix Toastmasters Club, which is to be chartered in October. She's a sponsor of Hiroshima Phoenix Toastmasters Club, and because of her contribution to the new club, she will earn her DTM soon. Very good. When she evaluates, she always tries to be positive, upbeat, helpful, and to point the way to improvement. So please welcome Toastmaster Emiko Morikawa.
Thank you. Toastmaster Takamura, how lovely and brilliant your speech is. I'm sure your speech made lots of audience members think of their best friends. In this project, the speaker has to encourage listeners to reflect on their lives and see their lives in a new way. What a tough project it is! But I found lots of excellent points in her speech. Today, I'll focus on her 3 brilliant points plus 2 suggestions to improvement. First, Toastmaster Takamura is successful in selecting her speech theme. Her theme, the best friend, is familiar to the audience. Therefore, we can easily reflect on our own experiences about friends. Her topic contributed to connect her to the audience. Secondly, her speech is full of interesting anecdotes about Mayuka, Rei, and Ami-chan. Her colorful anecdotes successfully drew audience members' attention. Thirdly, she used many dialogues to depict her stories. It's a great way to make her speech more interesting and to attract the audience. Dialogues also gave her chances to show her vocal variety. She used tone, speed, volume, and pauses very efficiently. Amazing. And actually, it's challenging to find what to suggest for her further improvement. And I managed to find 2 suggestions. First, she inspired us to think about the best friend. Then, what would she like us to do after that? For example, would she like to say like this? Take action to be the best friend, and you can improve yourself personally. If she adds one last push to make her intentions clear, she can inspire the audience more. Secondly, Mayuka-san met her in her friend's wedding and cleared up your misunderstanding. At that time, she must have been thrilled to know the truth. If she shared her surprising and happy feelings with the audience before saying we had a good laugh together, her speech could be more vivid. Toastmaster Takamura, anyway, you are a great storyteller. I cannot wait to listen to your next speech. Congratulations on your nice speech. Toastmaster?
Thank you very much, Emiko Morikawa. And our second evaluator today is Toastmaster Miuri Fukihara. Toastmaster Fukihara belongs to 3 clubs. They are Aki Club, sorry about my pronunciation, Kuri Club, and Hiroshima Phoenix Toastmasters Club, which is to be chartered in October. She's a treasurer of Aki Club. When evaluating a speech, she looks over the project in advance to figure out what to focus on. While listening to the speech, she tries to pay attention to both the contents and the delivery of the speech. So please welcome Toastmaster Miuri Fukihara.
Hello. I was really inspired by Toastmasters Takamura's speech for thinking about what best friends are. Toastmaster Takamura, can I call you Akiko? Okay, thank you. So Akiko's project today is Inspire Your Audience. According to the evaluation guide, you are asked to present a speech that inspires the audience. From this aspect, ask Akiko's speech topic, the best friend is the best. The definition of a friend may vary from person to person, but I guess all of us have friends. It means your topic attracts everyone's attention. In addition, under the pandemic of COVID-19, we realized the importance of person-to-person connections. In this situation, she made a timely speech. Next, vivid stories help you inspire audience. Sometimes emotional appeal is more effective than logical statement. Akiko talked about 2 vivid stories. One is Mayuka's brother's death, and the second is about her wedding ceremony. On these 2 occasions, you wondered what the best friends were. Listening to your speech stories, I also wondered the same thing. So Akiko successfully inspired me. And the speaker should be aware of audience response. In this aspect, as one of the audience, the last speech sentence, I'm never going to hesitate when I say you are my best friends, sound a little bit strange to me. If Akiko means the audience today are your best friends, her best friends. If you call everyone best friends, the weight of best will fade. After listening to your speech, I thought that your key word, best friend, can be paraphrased as close friend. But best friend has a stronger impact than close friend. I can't find any good suggestion. So I'm very happy if Akiko accept it only as my impression, or the difference if Akiko have a chance to think again about her speech. And I think that Akiko's camera is one of her best friends, because the positioning of the camera today is wonderful. And the camera catch all of her body language and positioning. Sometimes she sat down and sometimes she stand up. So camera is one of her best friends. And overall, I like Akiko's speech with wonderful body language and lovely smile. So I'd love to hear Akiko's speech again if I have the chance. Akiko, congratulations on your inspiring speech. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Miuri-san.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Miuri Fukihara, and thank you to all our volunteers today for Akiko Takamura-san and Emiko Morikawa-san and Miuri Fukihara-san for volunteering to take such a difficult and nerve-wracking job today. Thank you very much. Now what we're going to do is go into breakout rooms. So I'm going to ask Naoki-san to put you all into breakout rooms to discuss the speeches, but particularly to discuss the evaluations. So that's constructive criticism of improvements you think that they could make, or any suggestions that you have for the evaluators. So could you put people into breakout rooms, please, now?
Yes, the time is 7 minutes.
Okay, I think most people have come back now. What I'd like to do is ask for a couple of volunteers from one or two of the breakout rooms just to quickly summarize what you talked about. So anything that came up in your breakout room. So we're just going to ask a couple of people. So first of all, do we have any volunteers? Somebody volunteer? There we go. Okay, I can see. Daisuke Kono, can you unmute yourself?
Oh, just a moment, please. Can you unmute yourself? Now you can unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay, a couple of things that came up in our breakout room. Both were excellent evaluations. The first person, Morikawa-san, was very structured. She told us what she was going to say, and then she actually said them. Also, the suggestions were very specific. One thing we noticed was that she didn't specifically talk about the objective of the project, which was inspire your audience. On the other hand, the second evaluator used the word inspire many times, which was obviously speaking to the objective. On the other hand, we found that her evaluation, maybe the suggestions were not as specific. And also the entire speech was slightly less structured. So it was a little bit more difficult to follow than the first evaluator. So that was a summary of our findings. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daisuke. Okay, can I ask for one more volunteer from another group? Somebody wave your hand if you would like to volunteer. Okay, Tenma-sama. Hideo Tenma, unmute yourself.
Yeah, okay, thank you. We had a similar findings with Daisuke-san's group. And one thing that one of the members, Masashi, pointed out was interesting. With Miuri-san's evaluation, she was talking about the last part of Akiko-san's speech. And she found that it was a little bit awkward to be called best friend because we're so many, we're 100 people. But in that, Masashi-san suggested if Akiko-san had started the speech with, "You are all my best friends," that could have been different. You know, that should have grabbed everyone's attention and instantly brought everyone into her speech, and that it will be congruent with the ending, opening and ending. So it could have been an idea to incorporate. That's one good suggestion we had. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Marana-san.
Yes.
One more volunteer.
Okay.
Okay, I would recommend the Hino Masako-san.
Okay.
From my group. Hino-san, please.
Okay, our group agreed to today's evaluator did great job, and especially Toastmaster Morikawa-san point out 3 good points and 2 suggestions very clearly. On the other hand, Toastmaster Fukuhara-san also pointed out 3 good points, but unfortunately she didn't suggest any suggestions clearly. So if she said improvement, a little bit improvement is better than it becomes better evaluations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you all for your evaluations and your evaluations of evaluations. One thing I'd like to point out that may have become clear to all of you, everybody will notice different things. When it comes to an evaluation, I might pick up on one thing, but somebody else might pick up on something totally different, because we're not all going to think the same. We're not all going to decide, well, this is the best way to improve. This is the way that she should do it, because there isn't one way. All they are is suggestions. And all of us think differently and have different experiences, different opinions, different ideas. So one thing to remember is that everybody is different, and everybody will come away with a different idea of how it should have been done or could have been done. And there's lots of different things that we have to remember with that. I would just like to a little bit talk about my suggestions for the evaluators. Firstly, I'd just like to talk a little bit about the first evaluator, Emiko, Toastmaster Emiko. One thing I really liked about her evaluation was that she really showed she was listening. So by mentioning the names of the characters in the speech, you could tell she'd been listening all along, and she was very focused on the speech. I liked the way that she clearly stated what she was going to say. As somebody else mentioned, she very clearly said, I'm going to talk about 3 good points and 2 improvement points. And that made it very clear of her structure from the beginning. The improvement I would say was that she didn't really mention the objective. She didn't actually talk about the manual or the objectives very much at all. So, yep, talking about how the speech inspired the audience or mentioning other things from that would have been one way to improve. The other thing also is that she said she was very challenged to find the suggestions, yet she managed to give 2 suggestions that were reasonably clear. When we do give suggestions, it's an idea to make them very, very simple and very, very clear, because sometimes people will give suggestions and you'll think, what do they want me to do? What are they saying? So one way to do that is by giving examples, and not always focusing on the speech structure, but also focusing on things like body language and vocal variety and things like that, and eye contact. And that way it's very easy for somebody to go, okay, I managed to do this well, but I know I need to work on my eye contact, which is difficult for all of us when we're online, because we have to remember to look at the camera and not at the screen. But, and the other thing is, I would encourage you to end on a positive note. So I felt that the first evaluator didn't really end on a positive note. So I think ending with something encouraging, something positive, break those 3 points up. So you have 2 of the good ones first, improvement points, and end with the best point. End with the fact that you really enjoyed the vocal variety and the depiction of the stories, something like that, so that the speaker leaves feeling like, yes, okay, I can do this, I can do a good job. The second, and for the suggestions, I would say add examples, actual physical examples of how they could do that. The second evaluator, Miuri Wahara-san, I particularly liked the way you referred to the manual at the beginning. And from the beginning, we already knew you'd read the manual. You were focusing on the different the parts, and you were listening to how she was inspiring the audience. I think structure-wise, I'm making it a little bit clearer that you were going to add some improvement points, or making your structure a little bit clearer. And I also think that you really showed you were listening, because you also brought in some parts from the speech, and you actually mentioned how the different characters and how they did that. For improvements, I wrote down, I thought that you should be a little bit clearer in what you were saying, which I think is also what somebody else commented on, especially when it comes to the suggestions. So when it comes to making suggestions for speakers, be as simple and as clear as possible, and do it with an example. And I think because the suggestion is how that speaker is going to improve. The suggestion is how the whole room is going to improve. So I think for improvement, come in with, be clear in how did she inspire the audience, or how could she have inspired the audience more? And if you can make that a little bit clearer. But overall, I liked the way you ended on a positive note. So ending with a positive note, is very important, I think. But I would like to thank all of the speakers and evaluators today, because it's a very difficult thing to stand up and talk in front of 100 people, whether they're in a room or online. It's as nerve-wracking in different ways. And now, do we have some time for some questions? If anybody has any questions?
Yes, we have. So.
Okay, I can see.
Kazumi-san, Kazumi Watanabe-san. So now you can speak. You can unmute your microphone.
Unmute myself. Oh, I did. Thank you. Okay. Thank you for a great workshop, Marara-san. And I have a question about, should I need put the summary at the end of the evaluation? Summary means a summary of evaluation itself, my evaluation.
I don't think you need to, but I think you can. So I think if a lot of it depends on time and how much you've talked about. It is quite a nice way to end an evaluation with something like, in conclusion, there are some things that you might need to work on to improve your speech. However, I think that you did a fantastic job today, and I really enjoyed the way that you inspired us to go out and make more friends, or something like that. So ending with a nice in conclusion, or to summarize something that wraps it up, is a really good way to end one. It's not strictly necessary, so it does a lot depend. If you have come up with lots of points, but it does round it off nicely. And as speakers, we always want to have structure, whether it's an evaluation speech or a table topic speech or a full speech. We do need to have that structure within our speech. So having a line at the beginning as your introduction and having a line at the end as your conclusion is a very nice way to make it nice and round and end it.
Okay, thank you very much for your clear answer. Thank you.
So, do you have any other questions? Can you raise it?
Yoko-san is waving.
I can see Owatara-san is waving.
Okay. Ogasawara-san, you can unmute your microphone.
Thank you for giving me the floor, and thank you for holding this very constructive and informative workshop. Evaluation is still a challenge for me, and I've learned very good practical points. My question is might be related to cultural differences. I just came back from Switzerland just a few weeks ago, and by window shopping several Japanese Toastmaster clubs, I realized that there's always 3 improvement points and just 3 great points and 1 improvement point. 3-to-1 ratio is just a general structure of evaluation. And in Switzerland or in France, it's always 3 positive, 3 negative. So, or if we just 1 or 2 positive and 3 improvement points. So the focus is more on critical feedback or improvement points. Does it come from the cultural difference, or is there like a template that was introduced in Japanese Toastmaster Club that we should refrain on the negative or improvement points? That's my honest question. Thank you.
Okay. Honestly, I don't think there is a framework, and I don't think there is a set way to do it. And I also do think it depends a bit on who you're evaluating. I know that in some clubs, some people evaluate much harsher than in other clubs. And but I really do think it comes down to who are you evaluating. If it's somebody who is very competitive, who is really, I want to push, improve, and you know that about them, then yeah, give them a little bit of positive and a lot of improvement points. If it's a beginner, give them a lot of positive and a little bit of improvement points. So I don't know it's particularly cultural, but that's very interesting observation. And it would be good to research one day and go and see clubs around the world and see how they do it. So I don't think it is particularly cultural, although it might be a natural kind of stereotypical thing. But it's very interesting to note. But I do think it comes down to who you're evaluating. So yeah, rather than, there isn't a standard. So if you give 3 improvement points and 2 good points, that's fine. It really comes down to who are you evaluating.
Okay, thank you very much. So next is the last question, the last short question.
Short question.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, Kosuma-san, please.
Okay, I will try. Okay, Marana, how are you today? Club has the half of them 14 people, 14 members. So I be assigned to be a 14 Toastmasters evaluation. I couldn't sleep before the night. So how do we do? Because their English is very different from Japanese English. Very different. It's very difficult. So mainly talk about the gesture and the voice and the manner is mainly okay. I want to try to evaluate their English, but it is very difficult. Please give me some suggestion.
Okay, well, actually, I think that largely comes down to your fear of doing it. Because maybe you're more nervous of evaluating a native English speaker than you are of a Japanese speaker. But anybody has very useful information for any of us. And also, if you think an English speaker, they're giving their speech to a largely Japanese audience in Japan. So they also need to know not to use very complicated words, not to have a very complicated story, because they're not giving their speech to just be able to use those words. They're giving the speech so the audience can understand. So if you don't understand their speech for some reason, as I was saying before, if you don't understand their speech, you can actually say, I didn't fully understand your speech because you use very complicated language, as a way to improve when you're speaking in front of a Japanese audience or a largely Japanese audience. Why don't you try simplifying it or speak a little bit slower or something like that? So you can use that as your improvement point, but don't be scared to evaluate. So one thing I'd just like to end on is when you are giving your evaluation, when somebody asks you to give your evaluation, don't be terrified of it. See it as a way to challenge yourself, no matter who you're evaluating. See it as a challenge to yourself to say yes and do it, because it's going to help you improve your own skills as well as other people. So don't think, oh my God, but they're such a good speaker, I can't possibly evaluate them. I have nothing, I can't talk about their English. You don't need to talk about their English. You just need to evaluate their speech and give them something. You can comment on their gestures, their vocal variety, their body language. There's so much more to giving a speech than just the language that's used.
Okay, thank you, Marana. I will do, and we will do after.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your active participation, everyone. Lastly, I'd like to ask Toastmaster Takamura. So how did you feel about evaluations today?
Thank you.
It was a very luxurious time. Everybody was talking about my speech. And then what I found was that every evaluator were a great motivator. Even in the breakout room session, I received a lot of good comment about my speech. And I definitely gained a motivation to make another speech. And then as it comes to suggestions, they're all very valuable for me, and I took note of some points, and especially my best friend. I say something at the first. I say my best friend. Best friend tend to be only one friend, but later I say everyone is a best friend. So I thought it would be a little bit strange as well. So I totally understood. And then Tenma-san and then suggested that I should first say that you are all my best friend. I thought it was a great suggestion. And, yeah, so Yeah, I thought evaluation is very variable. So I will try to listen to more evaluations from now on. So this workshop was a great success. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your wonderful speech and cooperation. And Toastmaster Morikawa and Toastmaster Fukuhara, thank you very much for your wonderful feedback. So we learned and enjoyed a lot. And special thanks to Toastmaster Marama Carmichael Kishimoto. Can you see my screen? Today, can you see my screen? Okay, so unfortunately, I cannot give you the trophy today. You need to get by yourself, but we sincerely appreciate your cooperation. Best of luck in the coming contest. And I will also send certificates of appreciation to the speaker and evaluators. Thank you for your cooperation. Lastly, I'd like to take a group photo. Okay, the first, there are 5 pages. Cheese, hi cheese. Okay, second page. Hi cheese. Third page. Hi cheese. And the last page. Hi cheese. Thank you very much for your participation. So have a nice Sunday. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.